Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. It's the Final Four preview. We're going to preview the first game, and that is Oklahoma and Villanova. I'm joined by Bryan Leonard and Preston, Sports Cheetah. Guys, great action last week, some great games, some, unbelievable finishes in some of the games, then not too many blowouts, but we had a few. We got two teams here, Oklahoma and Villanova. They're playing good basketball right now, and obviously that's when you want to do it at the end of the season. But looking at these two, I'll go with you first, Preston, because you had a big play last week. You got the money going with Oklahoma last week in, over Texas A&M. Easy win for Oklahoma. They're playing well right now. I had a big win on Villanova on Saturday, so I'm happy with what they did. But looking at these two guys, Villanova, what I'm taking away, they knocked off Kansas. So a lot of people thought we were going to be looking at, Kansas, North Carolina, the two best teams meeting up somewhere down the line. But they took Kansas out. The good part is, they did it in a fashion that wasn't their strength. They only shot 40% from the field for the game, and they were horrendous from three, which Villanova, we've talked about it many times, Preston, this is a team that likes to live and die with the three, and they were only 4 of 18 in that game and was still able to advance. Thank God they were able to make a ton of foul shots. That's what did it. What do you make moving forward from a game like that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out. I think it was really impressive with that Villanova-Kansas game was that they did only shoot 4 for 18 from three, and they were able to get the win anyway. And one thing that they did, other than, they played defense superbly, but they also took Perry Ellis out of the game, which was, I think he didn't score at all in the first half. And then Kansas kind of was trying to force things to him in the second half, and, he just never could really get going. And if they can do something even just remotely similar to Buddy Hield and make some of the other Oklahoma players make shots, which Kansas guys couldn't do, I think we're going to have a similar type of game that we saw against Kansas. It's probably going to be close, and if Villanova can keep Buddy from scoring 25, 30 points, then I think they're going to win the game. And I think they're still, they're slight favorites for a reason. And I do want to point out they played, and people have mentioned this probably if you've started looking at some of the recaps, they played against Oklahoma in December in a Hawaii tournament, and Villanova was 4 for 32 from three. It's like their worst three-point shooting game of the year. They got blown out, so you have a little bit of a revenge factor there if you like them. I personally haven't bet the game. I don't think I will. From a numbers perspective, it's pretty good at -2, and I don't know if there's a ton of value either way. But if I had to pick a winner, I think Villanova does get the W. I think they'll be able to kind of take Buddy Hield out of the game, at least to a certain degree, or make him work extra hard for some of those buckets that he normally gets, and ultimately Villanova will shoot a little better than they did last week and get the W.
Now, Bryan, you got Oklahoma here, and a lot of people around town in Vegas, if there is a sentimental pick, it might be Oklahoma because of the coach of Oklahoma, former UNLV coach. I know there was a lot of people who didn't want to see him leave when he did, and he's done a magnificent job with Oklahoma. Given what Preston just said and what Villanova was able to do to Perry Ellis, does that now, give a warning sign, for Oklahoma? Now they've got a week to do some X's and O's and say, okay, this is how they took Ellis out of the game. We got to be prepared so they don't do the same to us. It's easy, when it's harder when it's the one-day turnaround, but the fact you got a full week, that's got to be a benefit to a good coach.
Yeah, we're talking about Coach Kruger, Lon Kruger, coach of Oklahoma. Everything I've been told, and we're friends with some of the press out here in Las Vegas, just a great guy. Just an all-around terrific guy. I'd love to see him win this. That's who I'm rooting for. Unfortunately, as Preston pointed out, they got Buddy Hield going, and he's a great shooter, but whereas Kansas has 3 or 4 guys that are able to create their own shots, he's basically the one guy at Oklahoma. If he doesn't have a good game, they're in trouble. So that's a concern I have here, is where they were able to do it with the Kansas team, where it has more than one option, and Oklahoma has a couple options, but when you've got one guy who takes the vast majority of the shots, if he's on, Oklahoma can win this. If he's not on, I have serious concerns about them winning this game.
Yeah. Last thing I'll throw in there, Preston, the flip side to that is Oklahoma shot better from 3 in their game to get to the Final Four than they did from 2. They were 50% from 3, shooting 12 of 24. Can you expect that to happen again against a Villanova defense that plays pretty good and has got a lot of length?
Yeah, one thing worth mentioning, Villanova is the top 10 or 11 defense in the country as far as defensive efficiency goes. I think Oregon was like 56. Texas A&M was, I think, 25th in that range. So Oklahoma also kind of looked really good the last 2 weeks for a reason. The only other team they've played recently that was a top 10 defense was Bakersfield. And Bakersfield had the ball down 4 with a minute and a half left. And then basically Oklahoma scored the last 10 points. But they were in that game, and it was pretty close, and Bakersfield slowed it down. I think Villanova will try to do the same thing. And so, like you mentioned, with a defense that's that strong, something that maybe that Oregon and Texas A&M perception is kind of carrying over for Oklahoma, I'd be wary of it. I think Villanova is going to win the game, and I think the athleticism and the defense will ultimately be the reason why.
All right, guys, head on over to WagerTalk.com. You can save $10 this weekend on picks. Find out who all the guys have. You can save $10 when you use coupon code FINAL4. Just type in FINAL and the number 4. You'll get $10 off your purchase. We'll be back with more here at WagerTalk.com.